Are you speaking to your ideal client or at them? And I'm sure you've heard this 100 times, but hear me out for the next 10, 15 minutes, because I'm willing to bet the way you communicate, the way you speak, doesn't take into account the little chatter that's going on in your potential client's mind, whether it's when they listen to your podcast, they watch your videos, when they read your newsletters, your sales page, or even when they are on a call with you. Welcome from the garden, the place I spent most of my childhood in, the place I grew up in, back in my home country, Hungary. I'm still staying at my parents' house before next week, when I'm gonna be jumping on a plane and then back to digital nomad mode. I'm gonna be sharing a lot of my videos, my content, writing emails if you're in my newsletter from East Asia, China and Japan. So super excited, but a bit more about how I feel about these changes in another video. Today I wanted to talk to you about the third type of trust that I was alluding to in my previous video, which is all about the most important type of trust that I see so many creators, purpose-driven entrepreneurs, heart-centered coaches don't intentionally work on building, which is not the trust in you or the trust in your process. That's what our previous video was about, but the trust in the client themselves. Not considering that when we say something in our content, in our emails, or on a sales call, there's going to be a little voice in our audience members, in our potential client's head, saying things like, "That's not true," or "That can't be me," "Oh, that's impossible, I can't do that," or "What if I can't follow through the advice?" So let's jump into the basics of the most powerful communication soft skill that I see any aligned entrepreneur building a sustainable coaching business apply and master, which is simply addressing the chatter that's going on in our potential client's head before it comes up for them. After years and years of struggling to create content, blending into everybody else, feeling like I was unheard, that no one was interested in what I had to say, I came to the conclusion that the internet doesn't need more information. And once I started consistently creating content, included this concept in my messaging in my first business, which is a language coaching business, I was able to attract an audience of people who have the intelligence to reflect, to be more self-aware around certain areas of their lives, making them a lot easier to work with as coaches. They're not those clients who easily give up, find reasons to quit, because I was addressing the people who don't just want to consume content because they don't have enough information, because they're too lazy to ask ChatGPT, but because they want the insights, they want to be challenged, their beliefs to be challenged. This concept is also what helped me reduce the percentage of sales calls that I was running. Right now I'm only running it for high-ticket clients, or when people insist on discussing things over a call, because my messaging is doing the heavy lifting of everything I'm going to be sharing with you today. And it's not just the objections that you might be thinking about now when it comes to like sales calls we need to handle that. It's also their stories from the past, their limiting beliefs or misconceptions, the BS that they keep being exposed to. You know, the human mind, if you know anything about it, it learns through repetition, whether what it's exposed to or not is true or not. So if you don't address these misconceptions, limiting beliefs in your messaging, you're not just leaving money on the table, but also, because I know you are a purpose-driven entrepreneur, you also miss out on helping someone, inviting someone on a journey of life-changing transformation. And an example would be, imagine you're a productivity coach and you're speaking to a person who might be having migraines on a daily basis. They might not have the energy to go out for a walk. They might feel a bit depressed as well. They could be having sleep deprivation. They don't understand why they can't sleep through the whole night. But all they do after work is feeling super exhausted, hopping on that couch, and then keeping on scrolling on their phone, watching video after video, thinking, believing that that's relaxing. In this day and age where people have access to AI, all the answers they could find through the questions they ask, millions of content pieces are shared throughout the internet every single day. Thousands of people watching motivational content, but their life doesn't really change. They don't earn more money. They don't seem to be able to make more progress with their fitness, their health, their relationships. If all your potential clients, who I assume, because you're purpose driven, you're impact driven, are people who are willing to take action, who are willing to commit to a transformational journey. If all they needed was more information, more strategies, more how to do this or how to do that, we'd already see a lot more people waking up and starting to take courage to build a life on their terms. The over a decade and a half I spent in adult education, learning as much about neuroscience, psychology, the psychology of adult education, how to teach, how to package things in a way that lands with the right people. I firmly believe that creating powerful content, and it doesn't even have to be like 5-10 pieces of content every day, that doesn't consume all your day to create. It's all about mastering human psychology and how people make decisions. So if we know that people don't make decisions because they have access to or lack of access to a certain piece of information, then what can we do? How can we create content that helps people to make a decision when it comes to asking them to sign up to your newsletter, opt into a masterclass you're holding, whether paid or free, or reach out to you, send an email to you? It's all about what drives their decisions, which is their beliefs. So the key to crafting and then improving your magnetic messaging, the framework I use and I teach to all my clients, is about speaking in a way, creating content in a way that gets people to see those invisible strings, those blocks that they might not even know about, communicating in every step of the way in your messaging to your potential client in ways that cuts through the filters we call mental firewall in my space. Instead of telling them how to do things, what to do, just shoving some extra strategies and lists down their throat that they would honestly not take action on, not believe that they could do, and would certainly not help them change their life. So it won't help you make a real impact on their lives. So going back to the smartphone example, which of these two content types is going to help you provide value beyond just sharing value, information, or strategies, but share value in a way that calls in closer to your business the right kind of people, the type of value that matters for us business owners to provide, which is showcasing how well we know their inner and outer world, so they start trusting us, they feel like we are in their head, that we have a camera in their house, and demonstrate the core issue, the core of the problem, that then will help them start seeking a solution. The content piece that says, let's talk about how you can relax after a long day at work. You can always sit down and journal, even for like 5 minutes, about how your life is going. You can go for a walk, you can walk in your garden, you can walk on the street, take your dog with you if you have one, and just use that time to take in some fresh air. And then call it a day by soaking in a hot bath for at least half an hour. Or scrolling on your phone for hours after a long day at work isn't relaxation. In fact, the more hours you scroll on it, the more exhausted you will feel. Your natural reaction after a long day at work, super exhausted, completely sick of all the people at work, could be just hopping onto the sofa, check out what today's news are, what pictures your friends were posting, their stories on Instagram. You lie down for what's supposed to be like just 10-15 minutes, turns into 2 hours of wasted free time that you could have spent doing things that give you that inner peace, that help you regain some of that energy for the rest of the day. You to have the energy to cook your dinner, to go out for a walk, and then feel a lot more energized. Here are a couple of things my clients did instead of scrolling on their phone for hours that allowed them to have the energy for the rest of the day. So they have patience with their kids, they get to cook dinner, and then maybe even take their dog for a walk. They started with reducing their smartphone usage by 10 minutes every single week, and then replacing it with journaling habits, bought a book for themselves, and because they bought the book, it kind of made them start reading it as well because they wanted to make their money's worth. Then they ended their day with a nice hot bath, soaking in that hot water for about an hour. If you're interested in the 3-part framework that I've been using over the last 3 years to attract an audience of buyers that didn't just help me stand out, create value beyond just what everybody else is sharing, get in front of the right audience, and craft messaging that effortlessly attracts the right kind of people, the 1% that I know you want to focus on with your heart-centered business, and convert them into dream clients that you love serving without selling your soul, and selling with integrity. Join my messaging masterclass, Communicate for Impact and Conversion. by clicking on the first link in the description below. Now, the biggest mistake I see a lot of heart-centered coaches make, and I see them, they would love to provide as much value as they can. They want to serve their audience. They post consistently. Sometimes they even have a newsletter that they send out at least once a week. They might even have conversations with people. They go above and beyond to serve, but whose sales aren't very consistent. They haven't created a system that speaks to the committed segment of their audience. So they're not calling in people to inquire about their services in the DMs, in the emails. They might not even get consistent bookings. And last but not least, they don't have a regular stream of income. All because of their messaging. And if this is you, that's perfectly fine. No one taught you how to create value as an entrepreneur in a way that doesn't make you look like an influencer, someone else in your spaces who's just there sharing their strategies, their lists, and then attracting those what I call content vampires who just come for the free stuff. I talked about this in the previous video. And instead create value that basically showcases those invisible strings that people are blind to right now. Demonstrate that you understand what they're going through better than any other person who they perceive as authority in your space, and subconsciously communicates to the right people that you have a solution that provides a faster, better, sometimes even more efficient way than just leaving them to their own devices. And sometimes all it takes, and I've seen businesses building huge six-figure launches, projects, because they found a hole in their industry. They looked around in their industry and they said, what is one thing that people blindly believe that no one else sees, that goes against their experience, that they could create content, entire funnels, or even an entire business about? Imagine the impact you could make on someone's life if the value you provided was simply showing them a different way of thinking, lifting off all the shame, all the doubt, all the insecurities, because you finally become the one person out of all the people that they listen to who tells them what they have never seen, what they were never willing to see, because of the way you communicate. All the students in my messaging membership Impact work through a few worksheets that really get them crystal clear on some of these beliefs that they can handle, remove, speak to, and then discredit in their messaging, so people are in a more empowered position to invest in their services. And one of the many questions I ask them to dig deeper into, to really take the time and reflect on, is what are the opinions, advice that everyone in your space, especially mainstream creators, is telling their audience, but something you don't agree with, or something that hasn't been your personal experience? And the second question I want you to reflect on is, what beliefs could your ideal client have taken on because they just accepted what their society, their peer group, or communities believed? One of the misconceptions I needed to unpack with my first business, again, standing by my values as a non-native English speaker. I don't even like to use the word non-native because I'm not a non. I'm a bilingual English speaker, was this concept all across the world that you can only speak English confidently if you speak perfectly without making any mistakes, and if you have a native English accent. It wasn't sharing strategies of how to learn a language or teaching people grammar or vocabulary that got me some of my most committed clients that I got to work with for years because they were so committed. It was simply removing this misaligned belief that they can only speak English well, they can only accept themselves if they are native speakers, which would obviously never happen because it's something you're born to be and not something you can become. The point here when it comes to removing beliefs, when it comes to showing people a different perspective, isn't to prove people wrong or isn't to call people out, to single people out in your content. And there are ways I teach my students to not sound like they are fear-mongering or they are trying to prove a point. What we focus on in my membership is always persuasion, speaking to someone in a way that lets them arrive at the conclusion that what they believe isn't actually true and is holding them back from the transformation that they want to experience. So by the time they are prompted with the invitation, with your offer, when it's time for them to click on that button and buy on that sales page, or to click that payment link, the natural next step is to say yes, because by that time their beliefs are already in alignment with the person they want to become. Once you get clear on all the BS that your ideal client is exposed to, all the misconceptions, the misaligned beliefs, limiting beliefs, the outdated advice that your potential client sees every single day, the next step will be to make sure that the people you speak to actually believe you. And this is another misconception among coaches who think, well, I'm just going to have to speak in my content the way I speak to my clients. Your clients have already paid. They look at you and eat every single one of your words. If you don't learn to communicate in a way that makes them think, oh my God, he's right. Oh my God, he just changed the way I think about things. Now I see things differently because you packaged it to me in a different way that I can understand, that lands with me. Thank you so much. That's gonna be the topic we're gonna unpack in the next video. Now let me know what's your biggest takeaway from this video. Have you been paying attention to this in your previous content, the content you've posted up to this point? Let me know in the comments, because your feedback helps me, gives me lots of feedback on how I can improve my content, what can I unpack more. So feel free to fire up the comment section. Hope you'll have an amazing rest of your day, and see you in another video.